Here's what you get with this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
Now, emotions are intended to help us navigate our environment more effectively. And so if we disregard our emotions, we are not paying attention to a whole bunch of data that's designed to help us to be better. And so we have to, in some cases, challenge some of those notions. But in order to move from the automatic setting, which most of us are on, to the manual setting, we have to learn what the manual settings do. You're not going to switch over from automatic to manual in your camera on your phone, or if you have a digital SLR or something like that. You're not going to switch to manual unless you know what the manual settings do. So we have to know what the skills are. What are those emotional skills that help us be more effective?
Oh, they play both kinds of music, country and Western. The Nice Guys on Business. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
Nice Guy community, welcome back to another exciting episode. Now, today we're going to meet the extraordinary guest. Now, I call him extraordinary because he's a guy that is right now, you're battling with snow and you're not even home. What happened? You just got stuck, David? Is that you get stuck somewhere?
Yeah, absolutely. We couldn't fly home because of the snow back home. And so it's like, stay right where you are. We'll go when out to the airport.
All right. Well, that's perfect for us because now I have him for a 6-hour interview. He can't complain about this. Actually, it'll just be the same length episode as every other. He is a trailblazing leadership development coach renowned for applying emotional intelligence. We're going to explain exactly what that is to transform performance, from founding one of North America's first focused companies in emotional intelligence to captivating experiences like being a guest of the Sultan of, is it Brunei? Brunei. Okay, there's some cool things. He keynoted at Harvard Medical School. David's journey is nothing short of remarkable. We're going to join today with David from Canada, snowbound Canada. Riveting episode exploring leadership, emotional intelligence, and the thrilling adventures that have shaped David's own unique perspective. We're here to talk to him today. Welcome, David, to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Thank you so much, Doug. It's great to be here.
I am happy to have you here. And this is one of those subjects that is fascinating to me, which means it's probably uniquely fascinating to those in my community as well. Emotional intelligence. Can we start with a 101 on what emotional intelligence is and why we would even need to think about it?
Absolutely, Doug. The problem with people learning more about emotional intelligence is the name. People hear emotional and they think, oh, this is warm and fuzzy. This is about group hugs. I don't want to have anything to do with this. And we have to shift that perspective to understand that because of the neuroscience research from the last part of the 20th century, we now know that emotions play a far bigger role in human behavior than we ever thought possible. And so this is actually about human effectiveness. And I know a lot of your listeners are, trying to work hard and get their companies going and get those companies out there and get teams together and get teams working effectively together. And the answer is not working harder, it's working smarter. And to work smarter, we need to understand more about emotion, our own emotions and the emotions of others. So, that's what we'll get into.
All right. Well, let's start there. Tell me what do we do? I guess let's start with the positive. What are we doing right? And then what could we use some help in being more efficient or productive at within either our teams or ourselves or relationships?
Doug, there are 15 emotional skills that we all learn in spite of ourselves from birth. Some people say even from before birth. And I learned this analogy the other day, and ever since I learned it, I'm crazy about it. It's like there's an automatic setting for us humans, and there's a manual setting. Now, Doug, I don't know, do you take pictures with your phone?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you use the automatic setting or the manual settings?
Oh, come on, automatic is so much easier. I said it in manual, there's too many mistakes I can make.
Absolutely, but so most of us human beings are on automatic. We take what we've learned through osmosis, through the culture, by virtue, in some cases, of our gender. I mean, you and I, Doug, because we're men, we probably learned that big boys don't cry. And when you learn that as a young kid, you learn, okay, so to be a man, I got to be tough, I got to be strong, and I got to disregard what my emotions are telling me. Now, emotions are intended to help us navigate our environment more effectively. And so if we disregard our emotions, we are not paying attention to a whole bunch of data that's designed to help us to be better. And so we have to, in some cases, challenge some of those notions. But in order to move from the automatic setting, which most of us are on, to the manual setting, we have to learn what the manual settings do. You're not going to switch over from automatic to manual in your camera on your phone, or if you have a digital SLR or something like that. You're not going to switch to manual unless you know what the manual settings do. So we have to know what the skills are. What are those emotional skills that help us be more effective?
Now you said there's 15 of them. Are there
Yes.
ones that are more priority driven than others? And can you give us a couple of examples of a few of those?
Absolutely. Some run in the background and some are right out in front. So some of the ones that run in the background are things like self-regard. We all regard ourselves in a certain way. And we regard ourselves that way because of all the messages that have ever been sent to us since the time that we were old enough to hear messages. And so those messages tell us that we belong, that we're important, that we're worthy, that we're deserving. Those messages tell us whether we should feel like imposters for doing what we're doing, or whether we feel like we should be where we are doing what we're doing and really owning our strengths. And some people don't feel very good about themselves, Doug, and that's a problem with our self-regard, how we view ourselves. Then there are others which are kind of front and center, and those are emotional self-awareness and emotional expression. We all have emotions going on all the time. And we create those emotions based on how we view stimuli in our environment. And then it's that interpretation that creates the emotional response in us. But unless we pay attention to it, we could miss important data. Emotions are data for us, data that's telling us about a situation. If we're getting a group of investors together and there's a whole bunch of emotions going on there, people aren't going to invest in you if they feel cautious about investing with you, if they don't trust you. And this is where emotional expression comes in, because we don't trust what we don't know. And if you don't express your emotions to me, I don't really know you. I don't know what you like. I don't know what you don't like. I need to know what you stand for. I need to know what you're all about, Doug, before I can trust you. And you're a nice guy. So I feel like I can trust you. But again, we've only just met, and I don't really know you until you tell me more about what's going on beneath your surface. And again, if we as men get told that that we shouldn't express emotions, that expressing emotions is a sign of weakness, then we shy away from it. We're not good at it. We're not practiced at it. And then as we work with a lot of leaders, Doug, leaders of small companies, leaders of large companies, and we coach them one to one, and we tell them that you have to share your emotions with your employees. And they say, why do I have to share my emotions? And it's, again, to be known. So to let people in, to let people get to know you, because in the absence of doing that, we guess. I'm going to look at your face and try to guess what's going on, and I could get that wrong.
I love everything that you say. And I think that one of the areas that I want to go back to just for a quick second, because the first thing that you said is not really one that I've put into play anywhere near as much as I could, maybe because I have a pretty decent amount of self-regard without being egotistical. I think that that's probably part of it too, is that what's the expression? You can't love others before you love yourself. And it's like, if you don't show the proper emotions to yourself, how can you possibly show the proper emotions to the world that is looking at you? If you don't trust yourself to make good decisions, how could you expect other people to trust you? And I want to talk about that for a second, because I think that is a understated and but a highly valued side of doing well in business and doing well in relationships. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, Doug. Some of your listeners might have heard of a guy named Patrick Lencioni. He wrote a great book called The Five Dysfunctions of a Team, and he has a little pyramid model of team functionality. And the base of the pyramid is trust. If we can't build trust, we are really limited in our effectiveness at whatever it is that we're trying to do in life. And worth noting, Doug, because you circled back on the self-regard idea, is that we have an online assessment for this. We have one where people can assess themselves and get an EQ score, and we have one where they rate themselves and other people rate them. Your listeners might be familiar with 360. So this is a multi-rater. And so we use these tools in our leadership development work with individuals within organizations. But some people have the mistaken belief that higher is always better. Well, imagine someone with very high self-regard who is not very humble. They can come across as arrogant and egotistical, and that's not good for anyone. And so it's about having the right balance, Doug, for a particular situation.
So what typically, because this is a really sophisticated subject matter, what typically are people coming to you with the problem of, like, I have this hurt or this wound and I need this wound fixed? And David, I know your company is the right one to do it because I was referred to you, but I don't even know the questions to ask you. What should be the questions someone should be asking themselves in order for them to know whether they need to step forward or want to step forward to talk to you and your company?
Absolutely, Doug. People come to us in a variety of ways, and so I'll tell you what a couple of those ways are. One, which is probably the least frequent way that the clients come to us, is a company will call us and say, we've got this senior person, they're extremely valuable for their technical skills and knowledge and experience, and we can't afford to lose them, but we can't afford to keep them with the way they keep treating people. And so that is a lack of self-awareness. And so what we do, my first question always is that person open to coaching? And if they say yes, then we'll work with them. And one of the first things that we do is this multi-rater assessment where they rate themselves, and then we get people around them to also rate them and compare the perceptions. And sometimes, Doug, that is enough for someone to go, OMG, I had no idea that I was having that kind of negative impact on people. My intention was to motivate the staff by yelling at them. Turns out the staff are not motivated by the yelling. They're demotivated. They're humiliated and embarrassed.
It's funny you say that. I just yesterday had a conversation with Stephen Covey, Stephen Covey's son, Stephen Covey also, and he's talking about this command and control versus inspire, someone to make a change or to make decisions. Would you rather be controlled or would you rather be inspired? And I 100% can relate to so many people that I've run into in my career that have had either a negative attitude or an iron rule at the leadership helm. And I think from a leadership perspective, understanding EQ is probably, because is emotional intelligence EQ? What's the Q part?
EQ is the measure of how well you're using your emotional intelligence. So it is the measure, but we use them interchangeably all the time. I met the Stephen Covey Sr. We were both speaking at the same conference together years ago, and I happened to meet him before he unfortunately passed away. And so this idea of command and control, we are evolving as a society all over the world. We're evolving away from command and control leadership. Because you know how old we are, Doug, when we realize we don't like to be told what to do. Do you know how old that is?
Well, probably as a 2-year-old when you want to do something, right?
That's why we call it the terrible twos. That's when we realize we don't like to be told what to do. So some people are trying to run whole companies like this by telling people what to do.
Right.
And the first thing you're going to get is resistance. So we're evolving away from command and control towards a participative, collaborative style of leadership, which involves people, which says, hey, you're valuable to me. I'm going to be transparent with you. I'm going to share information with you. People feel like they belong, like they're valuable. They're going to work hard. They're not going to go anywhere. Employee engagement is a measure of the emotions of employees.
What's really interesting about it, and there is such a crossover between your message and Covey's message and so many messages of organizations that are out there in the world. I think sometimes, and again, I'd love to hear your feedback on this. I think sometimes people feel like the emotional component of a business is so touchy-feely, and it's so this is showing, I have to be my lovey-dovey phase in order for you to follow me. It's such a 2023 or 2024 thing. I don't think that's the case. I'd much rather be inspired somebody than commanded to do something. And I just think that old school, old business was, we're going to lead from behind the scenes. We're going to tell you what to do and you're going to carry it out. What do you say to someone that feels like getting in touch with your emotional roots or understanding your EQ is irrelevant, or it's just too esoteric? I don't feel that way, but what do you say to say, because you've got to run that into that all the time, especially in dealing with corporate America.
Yes, absolutely, Doug. A famous neuroanatomist named Jill Bolte Taylor said, prior to the neuroscience research of the past century, we thought that we human beings were thinking creatures who felt. She says, now we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, we're feeling creatures that think. So if someone thinks that they're going to leave emotion out of it, and you may have heard that before, Doug, right? Let's leave emotion out of this. Let's use cold, hard logic.
This is just business.
It's not physiologically possible. And so what you do, if you try to do that, is you do that at your peril. You are going to negatively impact people emotionally. And they're not going to want to do business with you. They're going to go somewhere else. Now, given the choice between the person who's solely focused on business and the person who's a nice guy and focused on business, you're going to go to the nice guy. You know that because you named your podcast after that idea.
I would think so, but I look at it from that standpoint. I was raised by a single mom. I feel like I was raised with probably a more sensitive ear. I listen to every signal that I get. I think with two ears, how can I serve this person? If I lead with the value of how can I serve you better, I always think that you're going to, on the other side of it, receive the other ear, benefit from the message that they're sharing with you. And if you look at everything as opportunity and this is going to be great, I think that's law of attraction just shows that. If you look at things from that perspective, I think that you'll win every time. And I don't understand how a company can't be led with understanding, even if you don't know nice guy community. If you've never heard the term emotional intelligence or don't know EQ, don't you know that it's happening all around you right now? It is, isn't it, David? Is that right? It's happening.
Absolutely, Doug. Just think about some of the things that we value. Brand loyalty. What's brand loyalty? It's how you feel about the brand. Employee engagement. It's simply how you feel about the work you're doing. And why do people leave companies? Why do people have retention issues? They don't leave a company. They're leaving a person who treats them poorly. We do this exercise. We've done it with hundreds of times all over the world, Doug, where we ask groups of people to identify the qualities of the best leader they ever had in their career and the worst leader they ever had in their career. And I've got hundreds of photographs of these flip charts from these training rooms, and you would not be surprised at what people say and the impact on them. So, for example, how they describe the best leader they ever had are the ones who treated them like a human being versus just an employee. They're the ones who shared information with them. They're the ones who challenged them to do more, who believed in them, who treated them like a person, like a human being. This is not rocket science. And then the worst leaders were all focused on the bottom line. We're all about the end result. And some of those worst leaders, I mean, the list gets ridiculous, Doug. You probably will believe it because maybe you've had some of these leaders.
Oh my gosh.
People who were never around,
right?
People who didn't even show up, people who kept everything to themselves, never shared information, created chaos and disorganization, lowered morale, and on and on and on. And these people were kept around because of their technical skills. And we often promote people into positions of management based on their technical skills, assuming that they're going to understand and something, a switch is going to flip and they're going to get it on how to inspire people. But in the absence of training to that end, we don't cover this stuff in school, Doug. As you know, it's not in our elementary school, high school, professional schools, college, university. We don't teach people about emotion, which is what this is all about.
I want to make a right turn for just a quick second, because as I'm listening to you talk and share your perspective on this, I feel the genuine nature of the message that you are sharing. When did you discover that this was your gift, your thing, your desire to bring out to the world?
Yeah, great question, Doug. Have always taught people stuff. Ever since I was a little kid, I taught people things. And I taught guitar all through high school at a local music store. Graduated high school and I taught downhill skiing in the Canadian Rockies and over in the
Mhm.
European Alps. It was only natural for me to go into education. But then looking at the school system, I thought, wow, what a place
Mm.
to spend one's career. And I became interested in learning in the workplace. Well, how do people learn in the workplace? So I got a master's degree in education and I was teaching leadership courses for a post-secondary institution. And I thought it was interesting that we assumed that the managers coming to these courses where we were teaching them fairly sophisticated skills like conflict resolution, we were assuming that they had basic personal and interpersonal skills. And as you know, Doug, there's a wide range
Yeah.
of personal and
Yeah.
interpersonal skills out in the world. And we all know people who are just going to have trouble with a concept like conflict resolution, either because they don't know how to have empathy for others, or even how to understand the way that they act or talk to people, how it impacts people, and so giving skills to someone without a basic foundational level of emotional intelligence skills is really money wasted.
I think about it, the more that you're providing information and sharing your wisdom in this subject, I think about the roles that emotional intelligence plays within an organization, whether it's selling, negotiating, uh, human resources, customer service, customer support, engineering. There is not a department within an organization that would not benefit from at least getting in touch with the understanding of what we're dealing with. Is that how you feel?
Absolutely, absolutely, Doug. And a fascinating phenomenon is that the more technical the field, the more it tends to attract people who have a preference or a tendency to not want to be with people. We sometimes call them introverts.
Mm.
Introverts think that they're going to go into nuclear medicine or whatever field, or programming, so that they can get away from working with people, but you can't avoid it. You're going to be working in teams. You're going to be addressing customers. You're going to be client facing. You're going to have to talk about difficult issues. You're going to have to build relationships. And we don't learn in school how to build relationships.
I want to do two things. I want to share with my community. I know we talked about this before I hit the record button. I wanted to give them access, easiest way to reach out to your company, or at least to get more information. And then the more you were talking, the more I'm thinking, I'd love to send people directly to that. Is it like an evaluation what did you call it again? How they can
Yeah,
determine their
it's
EQ?
called the Emotional Quotient Inventory, the EQI. It's in its 2.0 version, and that requires a review of your results with a qualified professional. And I'm happy to send information to anyone who reaches out to me through our website, more information about the costs involved, because it requires sitting down with a professional coach and reviewing the information and talking about what you want to do. What do you want to do with it? If it was the kind of thing where you just went through it and you read it, there would be
Right, right,
probably very little change
right,
that
right.
would come from that. So we couple that with coaching, and that's where we see the possibility of change.
That's great. Well, I appreciate you telling me that and giving me that information into our community as well. So your starting point, if you're in our community and you are captivated and encouraged by the conversation, that you aren't alone in the world, if you're feeling a little bit like, hey, I need to get in touch with that part of me so that I can be a better leader, if I could be a better team member, if I could be a better customer, if I could be a better support agent, a better engineer, anything that involves your organization or your career, I think this is a good starting point. So head over to the show notes. You'll see in the show notes there's a link for eitc.ca. That is David's website. Head over there. I'll put a link in there. So if you didn't get the spelling of it, that's fine. Just head over to the show notes. And then if you do want to take advantage of going a step further, like David just said, there'll be some contact information and a way for you to get in touch with David.
Doug, can I tell your
Yeah,
listeners about a
sure.
simple and free emotional intelligence test?
Please do it.
It's one question. Do you make a room better by entering it or leaving it?
That is a great question. I mean, I want to say, without any ego, I really want to say that I enter a room knowing that when I leave the room, people will feel better than when I got there. Is that did I shape the question properly that you asked?
Absolutely, Doug. Absolutely.
Well, and it's not just that's what happens. It's what I want to happen also. And I think that there's a difference between, look, if that's always my goal, how can I get, and I'm not saying this about me, I'm saying that about people in general. Why would you ever want to go into a room making the room feel the same or worse, or not having any impact in the room? Don't you, unless you are being pulled into that event, that party, that social scene, that networking event, and you don't even want to be there, which sometimes is the case. But why wouldn't you want to if you are there? Why wouldn't you want to leave that room better than when you came in? How can anybody say no to that, David?
Some people do.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry. They're not my listeners then. So if you're in our community and you want to answer that question, and you want to, if you don't feel like that's the case, or if you feel like that's the case, but you want to get a further analysis of why you are doing that, or why you are making the room feel better, or how you can multiply that even more, head over to EITC.ca and get the beginning phase of information from David's organization. Any questions I'm supposed to ask you, David, that I'm not asking you that you would be encouraged to answer?
That's a good question, Doug. Yeah, I mean, in a very short period of time, we covered a lot of ground, but of course, there's a whole lot more to cover.
All right. And then finally, just let me ask you a personal question or two, because you said something before I hit record, and then you mentioned it during the interview itself. So you are a musician. Were you ever a professional musician aside from doing the lessons?
I have been a professional musician. I have recorded an album of original music. It's an outlet for me. It's my creative outlet. I'm passionate about it, and I occasionally bring my guitar with me to a keynote presentation and leave people with a song at the end.
Oh, that is so great. I love that, and that definitely shows a part of the creative side of you, which I'm sure goes into the framework of your program creation as well. So,
yes.
Thank you, David, for sharing. Thanks for being on the show and sharing your message with my community.
Thanks so much, Doug. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice, or the power of actually understanding what your EQ is. Special thanks to David Cory. All of his information, including access to his website, will be right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Seriously, it'll only hurt for a minute. And don't worry, I'll be fine.